Welcome to Sensiba's webinar on unlocking insights with Sage Intacct Dashboards. We're very happy to have you here today, and we'll get started. Let's see. All right, well, just a little bit of background about our firm. We are a CPA firm at our core with almost 50 years in business. Sensiba is recently, we shortened our name, but we've been through a few different names over the many years. And currently we are focusing on consulting in this practice. And we are not only working in technology like Sage Intacct, but also in a number of other softwares. And in consulting with, we're really proud of our sustainability practice. We have a B Corp certification, and our firm was the first CPA firm in California to be certified as a B Corp. And now we have a service where we help other firms and other organizations get B Corp certification, as well as ESG assessments and climate neutral certifications. But we do all of the core CPA firm stuff as well. We're based, as I said, in California, but we're actually working from across almost the entire country and even some international. So we're all over the place. Our consulting practice focuses on a number of areas, and we are, as I said, Sage Intacct certified partners, but we work with several other applications in the business software space, most of which are centered around the Sage Intacct ecosystem. But in addition to software directly, we do assessments and we do upgrades. We work in internal audit and Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. And we have a very robust accounting or outsourced accounting practice and a growing practice in family office. So we will be happy to answer any questions about that sort of thing if you want to follow up with us after the program. So just a quick introduction. I'm Tom Aker, and I am the Senior Solutions Consultant here at Sensiba. I've been in the accounting business for a couple of years now, and I've been working in technology a lot of that time and working with Sage Intacct specifically for about 10 years now.
And I am Michael Sudbury, Senior Systems Implementation Specialist with Sensiba. As you can see, I also have many years of Intacct experience, both as the client, the user of Sage Intacct, spent many years doing reports out of Intacct. That was my main role. And then also now implementing Sage, which I've been doing for many years as well. I think it's a great product, and I'm very excited to go over dashboards with you all today. So what are we going to cover? We've already done a little bit of our introductions and told you a little bit about our firm. We're going to cover the why and how of dashboards. So why you may want to use them, why they're useful, and what makes up these dashboards. How can we piece them together? Purposes of Sage Intacct Dashboards. So there's many different purposes that you can have for the dashboards. Maybe some are reporting, maybe some are operational. We'll go over that. Dashboard components. So what are the actual pieces that we can put on those dashboards? Is it going to be a performance card, a financial report, a memorized report, and then some even other fun ones like quick links, attachment containers, and billboards. Also, we're going to walk you through a few steps of planning your dashboard. If you're starting from scratch, what are some questions that you want to consider? What should I be asking myself when I'm starting to build a dashboard? And then we're going to walk through a few live demos of the dashboard in Sage Intacct.
All right, so thinking about why customers do or do not use dashboards. We have some customers who have dashboards all over the place and others who only have one dashboard that's maybe pretty standard. And we wanted to show current customers and potential customers of the possibilities that can be addressed in using dashboards, making basically the point here is to make your job easier and potentially even more fun. So we're going to try out some different kinds of dashboards and show you, perhaps spark some ideas for ways that you could be using them more extensively in your Sage Intacct environment. I think another piece that has held people up from developing more dashboards and putting them more at the center of their Sage Intacct is that customers maybe think that they're going to be difficult to create or maintain. And I mean, certainly you can make them difficult if you want to, but just as they are, they're really not that difficult to set up or to modify as you go along and discover new uses. We're going to show how.
Yes, and I along with that expectation that they're difficult to create, I find a lot of people also think maybe this takes a lot of time. You've got your month-end close, you've got all these other things going on. Do you really want to spend time trying to create a dashboard? Is that going to be efficient and effective for your role? And I would like to say yes. A lot of the times it can be a huge time savings. Somewhere where you go, and if you're going to manually pull all of these reports, that can be very tedious, especially if you start using some of the filters, which we'll show you that as well. Within the dashboards, it would take a long time to rerun all those reports. Also, there's a lot of built-in components that actually help speed up your user experience and your workflow. So you may be able to jump to certain sections of the system right from your dashboard, rather than having to go in and manually navigate through like a multiple click path. So it can also have a huge time savings there. So once you set it up, it can be really efficient.
Yeah, and oh, sorry, go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, I was just going to say, in running clients accounting processes and in running my own business on Sage Intacct previously, I always start from a dashboard. It just makes the whole job more simple and efficient.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. That's something I was going to mention later as well, is that setting your preference to a dashboard, especially if you have a specific role, like you're the CFO or you're the AP manager and you already have a role-based dashboard. It's a great place to start when you jump into the system. So what are some of the purposes of Sage Intacct dashboards? One of them can be reporting for stakeholders. That's a very common use. So maybe these are more outcome metrics, like how the company's doing overall, financial reports, things like that. And with that, Sage has different types of users. You have the main types where you have a business user, or you can have an employee user. So if you have like a reporting for stakeholders, you can have a employee user, which is a more restricted read-only user, and they're still able to see everything on a dashboard. And if you choose, you can have an optional drill down for them to where they can drill into the records and see them as well. You can also have an operational use for a dashboard. So like I was mentioning a little bit earlier, maybe a CFO role-based dashboard or an AP manager role-based dashboard. These can be used to facilitate job efficiencies. So if I use the AP manager as an example, maybe they have metrics on their dashboard that shows, total AP, shows their cash positions. It could also have their vendor aging, and then also just quick links throughout the system to immediately create bills, immediately create new customers, things like that. That's going to help speed up their job. And then you can also have other specific uses. So maybe you have a dashboard that's only related to inter-entity reconciliation or just consolidations, or auditor access with specific reports and views. And then also something like you can have a month-end close checklist. So you can have many different uses for your dashboards.
Yeah, and as we talk about like auditor access or giving any employee user access to a dashboard, they're only going to be able to see what their user permissions allow them to see, even if they have rights to the dashboard. So it's not going to override any of the security and permissions.
Yeah, and like with he was talking about the role based of like maybe the auditor. It also goes into the users' security rights within their entities that they can see, or if there was a department that they couldn't see. You don't have to redesign a whole dashboard with security restrictions just based on that. It still respects the user's restrictions first. So that's also really nice about the dashboards. So I spoke about, some different types of dashboards and different uses for dashboards. I wanted to go ahead and give you a little brief overview of some types of dashboards that might be useful and just walk you through that. So talked about more of a reporting dashboard. And I'm going to go down to this role-based dashboard. And actually before that, I'm going to go ahead and highlight, if you go to dashboards, there is a dashboards library. These operate off of the quick start categories within your system. And here you can add any of these. They're a great jumping off point. So you can see here, we have like a financial health dashboard, controller dashboard, compliance dashboard. So these are all available for you to install. They may not be perfect. They might be a good jumping off point, but that is available for you within the quick start. And we do now have these role-based dashboards that came out with a recent Sage Intacct release. So you can see here, we have things like a CFO dashboard, controller, AP manager. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into this. Actually, I'll jump into the board member. Actually, let me go back to the CFO. There we go. That's filtered to have data. We'll zoom out slightly. So you can see here, we have all these different metrics up at the top. These are what are called performance cards. These are quick views that help you see your KPIs and anything else that you may be interested in. So you can see here, we have one that's total revenue. We have one that's percent of administrative expenses year to date. We can have total expenditures. And then also we have comparisons. So with these comparisons, we see a lot of these are set to versus prior year, but that can also be dynamic. You could have that prior month. You can have it be many other things. And then also you can see here highlighted by this dashboard, you have many different types of indicators that you can have. So maybe you like seeing green smiley faces. Maybe you like seeing arrows. You have a lot of different ways to choose the way you see this data. This being a more financial reporting dashboard, we do see our performance cards, but we also see charts and graphs. So you can see here financial charts and financial graphs, things like operating ratio, we got a revenue analysis, and then we also have financial reports. So you can see here we have a revenue trend report right here. Now, one of the nice things about dashboards, and I mentioned earlier about efficiencies, is they are dynamic. So we have here, 11/30/2021. If I change it up here, I can filter all this report and all this data to look back at that prior period. Notice all of our numbers are changing, all of our reports are rerunning, and it's giving us that applicable data for this reporting period. Now, if you needed to look at this by a different dimension, so this one has programs, being a nonprofit. If I wanted to look at a specific program and run all these reports by that program, I can do that filter. If I needed to do it for one location or a specific group of locations, I can do that. And if I even needed to do it by a third, like a specific project or grant, I can do that. You can rerun these reports based on any combination of these filters you like. So that's really powerful. And you can imagine if you wanted to go rerun all of these reports manually, that might take some time. So this is another place where it can save a lot of time. One thing I do want to note, since we have this showing, is we have this cash balance, for instance, the graph right here. And if you hover over it, you'll notice where my mouse is, it's actually showing the number behind that. So you don't really have to guess, where this is on the chart. If you hover over it, it shows. And then also there's this icon that keeps showing up, show data. If I wanted to see this as an Excel graph, you can do that as well. So it's just something really neat that you can do. And then if I click this icon here, you can also see the whole thing here and print it out if you need to. So that looking glass icon will get that further. Also, when I talked about the reports, that we do looking glasses on the reports, I can actually run that report as an HTML separate from the dashboard, or I can take it off the dashboard and export it as an Excel. So that's another time-saving tool as well. You can run those reports straight from your dashboard and then just export them from there should you need to. So that highlights a lot of what I was talking about with a more financial-based dashboard. So let's take a look at one that's more operational.
Yeah, and as Michael was saying, this, for instance, the CFO dashboard, that an employee type user, which is less expensive, quite a bit less expensive than a business user. An employee type user could be the CFO viewing that data, drilling into that data, but not needing to enter transactions directly.
Yes, correct. So here we have what I was more talking about, a operational dashboard. True, there are reports here, but this is something that's going to help someone get their job done more efficiently. So this is an example of an AP manager dashboard. You can see here we have accounts payable, intercompany payables, and cash equivalents, it's just quick metrics. We have a dynamic view of a vendor aging. If I start changing the as of date, going to change all my reporting here. So that's very nice and efficient. Let's see, AP current aging analysis, appears to be no data in there currently. We have, posted bills. You have an AP trend, a list of vendors if you want. Here you can see we have a graph. And here's a component that I wanted to mention. We have a billboard. So one of the components you can have is a billboard, and this is just like a note section on the dashboard. You can use this to give notes to the entire organization, just so everyone knows. Insert message here. You can also use it as a reminder. So you can see on this AP manager, we have some of our policies here as a constant reminder. Prioritize payments based on due date, check available cash prior to payment, and 90 to 180 days cash on hand target. Something I alluded to earlier as well is having dashboards set up so that it's going to speed up your use of the system. So say I'm operating and I need to create a vendor and I don't want to have to go through this. So let's just look for an example. I have to go to applications. I'd have to go into AP. I'd have to go into vendors. I'd have to go add a vendor. From here, I can just click create a vendor and the record pops up here. I can click add. I don't even have to close my dashboard. I'm able to just add it within this new window. So that's something that can just save a lot of time over time. And then other things like approve bills. If I had bills out here for approval, I can jump right to that. I can look at my bills for approval. I can approve those or deny those, whatever I need to do. And it's just going to help you speed up your workflow in the system. Something that's not on this dashboard, but just to be aware of, is you can actually put a component on here that is approvals. So if I wanted my bill approvals living on my dashboard itself, I can do that as well.
Yeah, and we will take a look at that in a little bit.
So I spoke about a financial dashboard with all your financial stats. I spoke about the operational, and then, you might have some other creative uses for dashboards as well. So let's highlight the month end close. So maybe I want something that tracked my month end close, and this is a record for everyone. You can see here, as long as I had a month in close checklist, so that's something that would have to be created. You would have to, create that within your system. But you can see here, we would have all the tasks related to the month end close, who's assigned it, where we're at in the progress. You can see here we have custom navigation to go close certain subledgers. This close through summary would show you where you were at in close when the module or subledger was last closed. Here we have different approvals. So maybe there's some things that are still needing approval before you close. So like approved journal entries. If there were approvals out there for you waiting, you can see that and you can go ahead and prove it if that was your role. And then also have just some quick reporting shortcuts that would help you run the reports you need to go ahead and facilitate that close. So that's just to give you another idea of this isn't like a financial dashboard. This isn't something used operationally. This is a specific use dashboard where I'm using this to help myself, close month end. And that's not to limit that. There could be many other specific uses in your organization that you may think up that you would want on a dashboard. So this is just more designed to get you thinking about what could be on a dashboard, why you might use a dashboard, and the benefits of using these dashboards.
All right. Well, in looking at those different pieces, Michael took us through several different dashboard components, including, of course, reports, which we always think of, as well as graphs or charts, as they're called in the terminology of dashboards. He showed us some performance cards. We didn't talk about Collaborate, but we will in the next section of the demo. Collaborate, if you're not currently using it, is included in every Intacct subscription. It lets you conduct conversations within a transaction or a record, and it sticks with that record and allows users to interact with each other. And we'll take a little look at that when we move on to the next section. Michael showed us some approval queues and checklists and some shortcuts. And there's also something called smart links, which we'll also explore a little bit in our next section. So all of these those aren't, by the way, that's not an exhaustive list of the components that are available, but those are the most commonly used. So,
yeah. When you're planning your dashboard, really you need to be identifying your need. You need to think about who's going to be the user for this. Am I the user, or am I designing this for specific people within my organization? Am I setting it up for that AP user? Or with that, I do need to just briefly mention that to be able to edit these dashboards, you do need to have admin access. So that's another great start. To go ahead and create these dashboards and edit these dashboards, you will need to have admin access within the system. If you don't have admin access, of course, you can still view these reports. You can use the prompts. You can use the different filters on the dashboards. But to be able to create these and edit them, you would need to be an admin. That goes into the permissions and views. Do they have or need? Do I need to think about restricting these dashboards to only certain users, or is it going to be filtered by their access? And as we talked about earlier, if there's certain entities or departments that a user's only able to see, that's all they're going to be able to see on the dashboard. But maybe some people, I want to keep this dashboard for only this person, and I don't want everyone seeing the CFO dashboard. You can set that permission on the dashboard itself. And then you also have to think about what's key information for their role. So, like I was trying to highlight earlier, different people may need to see different things on their dashboard. But just that AP example again, they don't need to see all the financial reports. They don't need to see quick metrics. They just need to see things that are going to help them do their job. And that's really what I like to think about when I'm building a dashboard. What's the goal? How am I going to get this information best synthesized, most easy for them to access to help them do their job efficiently?
Right. We don't want to create a bunch of noise. We want to float the most important information to the top. So that's one great use for dashboards, is getting the key pieces of data in front of the user for their specific job.
Yeah. So once we have that planned out, what's the goal of this dashboard? Who's going to be the user? You have to think about what pieces do I need to build this dashboard? And Tom, can you go over some of that?
Yeah, so as far as account groups go, everybody who's using Sage Intacct is familiar at least with financial account groups. Those, of course, there's delivered financial account groups that roll up to your delivered financial statements in every quick start template company. And then there's also a potential for statistical accounts and statistical account groups. Some organizations use these more than others, but they can be very helpful in capturing operational data that's not related to dollars, and then reporting that in your dashboards. And then lastly, there's computational account groups, and we'll take a quick look at those in a few minutes here. And a computational account group can be built on either statistics or financial account groups, or it could be a combination of the two. And that gives you a huge amount of flexibility for both charts and for performance cards. Of course, dimensions are key in getting the value out of Sage Intacct. So although you may have dimensions all set up, you might discover when you're going to create a dashboard for a specific purpose that those dimensions aren't grouped and structured in the way that you want to show in the report. So going back to that prior step where you're figuring out what the needs of the users are, then you need to take a look at how your data is structured so that you can pull those dimensions in the way that you need. Of course, most organizations have departments and locations. Some have projects or grants, and many use the class dimension as well, giving it different labels for different purposes. So any of those might be useful in creating some charts or performance cards for your dashboard. So just thinking through all of that and knowing that you have to have that underlying architecture built out. It's not complicated, but it'll really facilitate the building of your dashboard.
Yeah, and I think even in with that, the account groups and the dimension structures, you have to define that financial report first too as well. So if we have a report that we're looking for in the dashboard, you would need that report created first to be able to add to that dashboard. If it's a financial report, of course, you have to build it. If it's a standard module report, something like an AR or AP aging, you'd also have to go in and memorize that report. So that's one key feature of those type of reports, is you do have to memorize those to be able to add them to a dashboard.
Yeah, so I'm going to walk you through a little of how to just build some dashboard components from scratch. And let me just jump in here and, all right. Can you see my Intacct screen now?
Looking great.
Okay, so this is it's a different demo company from the one Michael was showing. That was a nonprofit. This is a for-profit, just using the general business template. And you can see there are a lot of dashboards already created in here because it is a demo company. But we're going to pretend like we don't have any dashboards. As Michael illustrated, you can go to your dashboards library, and this will show you the quick start dashboards that are available within your company template. This is a slightly different list from what we saw on Michael's library because it is general business and not nonprofit. But we could start from here. We could say, oh, I want to see what the components are in this quick start dashboard. I can just view the components, and if I click on that, you see it's not installed, so they're not displaying anything yet, but we get an idea of what is available in this dashboard. And maybe we just want to install it to use it as a jumping off point for building a more elaborate dashboard, or maybe we want to install it so that we can copy the underlying design of some individual pieces. But at any rate, we can use these right out of the box, or we can use the Quick Start dashboards as sort of inspiration for dashboards that we want to build for our users. So going back to the dashboards list here, I'm actually just going to add one from scratch so that we can walk through exactly what you need for the different components we've talked about. So I've just clicked the Add button here. This is going to be a new dashboard for the COO. You can see here that I have a few different options right out of the gate. One is whether it's going to be 1, 2, or 3 columns. I'm going to go ahead and make it 3. And then I could make all of the columns flexible width, and you'll see what that means in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and just make the left column flexible width. And let's give it a background color of blue. Now, the group here is not required, but since we have groups and we know that this is for the role of COO, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the role-based group. That just makes it easier to navigate to it when we're going to use this dashboard later on. There's also tabs for filters and permissions. I'm going to come back to that though. For the moment, I'm just going to save this as it is. And now I can see that it's down here in the list, and I'm going to come over to the right column here and click on View Components. Now, it's not at all surprising there are no components because I haven't added any. So let's go ahead and start with performance cards. Now, when I go and I click that plus button in the top of a dashboard, I get this component properties pop-up. You can see my pop-up, right, Michael?
We can.
Great. So if I click on this drop down here, you can see the different kinds.
And Tom, I think your headset may have cut out. Hey, Tom, can you hear me? So I'm not sure that Tom can hear us, but what he was doing was walking you through the steps of creating that performance card and giving you some of the options. They were based on an account group, this one, and then he also selected what period he was comparing to. But as you can see that this system doesn't have any information for this period. So that's why we're not getting anything right there. So what I believe he's going to do is go in and edit and add a new filter to your dashboard. So you can see here the filter tab. We can select the as of date. And then this is going to give you that dynamic filter to use on your dashboard. Also, as he scrolls down, you can see we have many other dimensions we can use. You are limited to 3 of these on your dashboard. So you can have whatever you need, but you're limited to up to 3 filters within your dashboard. So now if he goes in and selects a period that has information, you can see here we have our gross profit is up this month, and we have the percentage to prior month below, and then we have the amount as well. So not only can we have things like account groups as a metric, you can have a statistical account as a performance card. So what Tom is demonstrating is going in and creating an employee performance card that is going to show you your employee headcount. And notice it also says no change versus prior month, so that you can also have comparisons if you need that as well, whether that be versus last month or versus prior year. So now Tom's going to highlight another type, a computational-based performance card. So he's going to look at an account group that he's already created. That is a computational account group that is revenue per employee. He also utilized Z, if you see that there. It's a nice way to separate things that you've created versus a out-of-the-box account group. I also like to add specific headers or prefixes to my account groups, maybe even based on the type of account groups I'm creating. So now you can see here, Tom has gross profit, the number of employees, and then a computational performance card for revenue per employee. All of them showing the comparison. All of this would be dynamic, of course, by the date and any filter that you wanted. So drill down is not supported for computational dashboards, but you could be able to click into anything else as well. So if I wanted to click into the gross profit, it would show me the gross profit. Click into the head count, I would see what's behind that data. So here, Tom's going to go in and add a chart. So we have our performance cards up top. A lot of people do like to see that at the top because it's like quick view, quick access of information that might be most important to you. But then he is also going to go in and add a chart that he has created. So here he has a financial chart that he is titled Company Performance. And just because the component is the name, we can also change the title. just be aware of that. It doesn't have to say that. You can override that within the component title. And here we have a trend analysis. Notice that it is to the left there. So we do have that. Now dashboards are drag and drop. You can move any of these components anywhere you'd like. Notice that we set the flexible width column to the left, so that is larger currently. If you put it in the middle there, it's be much smaller. If you drag it to the top though, you can have it span the whole dashboard. So you have a better view of that trend, a little bit easier to view if it's stretched across the entire dashboard. And any of those components you're going to be able to move around. If you edit the component, you can also change the style or output. So rather than that trend, now we have columns. Once again, highlighting any of those will show you the data behind it. And also when you click that show data, it gives you the chart output in a more Excel or data-based view. So not only do you have that financial chart, and this is going to be very similar with reports as well, you can have a memorized chart. So if I did create a chart based off of a module-based or standard-based report, and that was already in the system, you would need to search for it by memorize versus financial. So if I had like an out-of-the-box system vendor aging chart, maybe that needs to be memorized. Here you can see he also added a pie chart for operating expense by department. And once again, if you move that around, you can put that wherever you want on the dashboard, or you can expand it. And then it's nice that whenever you hover over that, of course, you're given that data. And if you click on it, you get that drill down access to see what makes up those admin expenses. He's also highlighting that you can filter by different locations, and then that's going to update all of your information here. It's going to update your performance cards and all of your charts. And of course, once you have financial reports, it would update that as well. You can also clear that. If you're through seeing that, you can use that clear icon, and it will reset all your filters aside from the as of date. And it gives you a good starting over on your dashboard. So he's going to demonstrate adding some reports. So when you go into that component type, you can click reports. And you can search for the report you're looking for. And that's going to be in the components. So if you want to lock the filtering, you can, but there is this section here. It's going to default to allowing filtering, but if you wanted to disable that and you prevent any filtering, you are able to do that too. So say maybe you always want to display a whole company view on a specific report, you can lock that by component. And here you can see he's added this report. So what we're getting is this nice drill downable dynamic report that can be filtered by any of these as of dates or any other dimensions within Intacct that you wanted to filter by. And then also, he talked about adding that collaboration feed. So that's just another one of those components that you have. So you have different options here. You can select how large you want this to be. So he's changing the height. And the height is an option of among a lot of these components. So you can choose how large you want this to be. So you can see here he's added in what I follow. And that this is going to give you a view of the Intacct Collaborate right on your dashboard as well. And if you're not familiar with Collaborate, it's a messaging system. So you can have conversations on specific records. So you can see here this purchase requisition example. What is this for? Needed to repair the fridge. This conversation would live on that record within the system. And you can keep track of all the questions or any conversation related to that transaction right on the transaction record itself. So it's a really great tool to use to track that within the system.
Okay, so now I am going to show a little bit about how to create a dashboard from scratch and add some of these components that Michael has shown and that we've talked about. I'm in a demo company that's a little bit different from the Mission Peak nonprofit that Michael was showing. This one is a general business company. So there's a lot of dashboards created in here for demo purposes, but it does have a dashboards library just like that other company. Slightly different dashboards for general business than you would have in the nonprofit, but still that's available to start from. But I'm going to assume here we don't actually have a library in the dashboard that we want to start from, and we're just going to create a brand new dashboard from scratch. So this one will be for the COO. I'm going to make it 3 columns, and I'm going to make the left column my flexible width column, and you'll see how that affects our dashboard when we get going on it. I'm going to make the background color blue, and group is optional, but because this is a role-based dashboard, I'm going to go ahead and add it to my role-based group, and that makes navigating to it easier when I'm actually using it. I'm going to skip the filters and permissions tabs here, and we'll go ahead and save that. Now I can find it in the list, and I click View Components to actually see what's in it. Now there's nothing in it because I haven't added any components yet. So let's start over here. So we click the plus Add Component button, and this gives us a list of the different kinds of components that are available to us to add to that dashboard. If I were to click General, then I have all of these general components that we can add, like the billboard that Michael showed, shortcuts, and we'll come back to one of those or two later on. But let's, for now, make this a performance card. So my performance card that I want to use, first of all, I have an appearance tab and I have a filters tab, but I'm going to just use the filter or the appearance tab for this. And I'm just going to have a quick performance card of gross profit. And you can see here, I can give it a title and I can choose my pre-defined account group. The title doesn't have to match the account group. We can make the title whatever we want, but that's what I'm going to do for now. I am using the current month, and it's going to be an amount with currency. Our other options are a number or a percent, but currency applies here. And I can choose rounding. In this case, I'm going to round to the thousands. I'm going to use only one reporting book. If I had multiple books that I wanted to combine, like allocations or consolidations, I could do that here, but I'm just going to use the accrual book. I'm going to compare to the prior period, and I'll just let it go ahead and use an arrow as my icon. We have other icons available there, and we'll show the percent change. It's automatically going to group with performance cards. Go ahead and save it. And there we are, a performance card that shows 0. It's showing 0 because right now it is July of 2023, and this company doesn't have any data for July or June of 2023. So what I need is to be able to date this. And where we do that is the application of filters. Now, if I click on my little gear icon here, that takes me to my dashboard settings. And now I can use the filters tab. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the as of date. You can see that I have all of my dimensions available here also to use as filters. You can use up to 3 on any given dashboard. In this case, I'm just going to select location and save that. And now you'll see the filters appear in the header, and I'm going to put the date to 12/31/18, where there is actual data in the demo company. So now you can see I've got gross profit, and I have a comparison to the prior month. This is based on a financial account group, so I can drill in to the financial summary in a little comparative report that matches the numbers that I'm comparing in my performance card. So that's one kind. I want to throw a couple more up here. We also use statistics here. So I'm going to use a stat group of employee headcount and put that in here. Employees are not currency, so we'll just use a number for the headcount, and we'll leave it at that and add this one. There we go. Now we've got a statistical account group being used in a performance card. So that can be very useful. Also useful is a computational account group, and I'm going to put one of these in here as well for good measure. What I want to know here is the revenue per employee. So in this case, I had to actually create a custom account group to get this calculation. And I, as a matter of practice, put a Z before my custom account groups to keep them distinct from the delivered ones, the quick start account groups. So here's my Z revenue per employee, and I'm going to go ahead and make that a currency. I'll keep it as a whole number. I don't need to round on this one. And I'll make the icon for this one a green smile if it's good. And we'll add that one. Okay, so there we go. We have a financial, a statistical, and a computational account group represented as performance cards. We cannot drill down on computational account groups because there's no ledger to drill to, but we could add the performance cards or the measures that actually fit into this calculation if we wanted to confirm that it's calculating correctly. All right, so let's add now a graph or chart, as we call it in this terminology. And I'm going to add a financial type chart. There's also memorized charts available if you've used the custom report writer to create memorized charts. Again, these charts need to be defined before we get into the actual building of the dashboard and adding them as components. So I have a custom chart here for company performance. You'll see that the component title shows up as Z company performance. I can just take that Z out. I can edit the title of my chart to be anything I want. It does not go back and affect the source component, only the way that it's displayed in the dashboard. So I have some styles. I have the option of a legend. Let's go ahead and add a legend below, and I can choose the height of it, and I can determine whether or not it's affected by those filters that we put on the dashboard. In this case, I do want it to allow dashboard filtering. I'll click Save, and it puts new components by default. If they're not performance cards, it puts them in the left column at the top. Now, the left column is our flexible width column, so it's adapting to the width so it can display this rather wide trend report. If I move it over to the right here and put it in the center column, you can see it becomes a lot more squished and not so useful. Another thing that I can do with wide charts like this is I can move them to the header. I can put them above the performance cards, or I could put them right below the performance cards. And now the chart can take up the entire width of my dashboard, however wide that is. Now, maybe I decide, you see that this chart has 4 different account groups that are trended over time. I can view the data by clicking the View Data button and get that in a tabular format, or I can change it back to the graph. Maybe I decide that I want to see these 4 account groups more clearly distinguished against each other for each of my periods. And I can go in, once again, click the gear icon to go to my component properties, and I can change my chart style here. Let's say I want to change it to a column. Again, this affects how it displays in my particular dashboard, but does not change the definition of the original chart that I had built. So I could show this as a line in one dashboard, and I can show it as columns like this in this dashboard. These are all financial account groups, so all of these bars are drillable, just as we did with the performance card. So far, we've just worked with different kinds of account groups, and we've got some dates in here, but we haven't really touched on dimensions. Let's just throw a dimensional chart in here. So one more chart. Again, it's a financial chart. This is operating expense by department, and it was defined as a line chart, but I like to see it as a pie. And it's going to be 200 height. We're allowing dashboard filtering. We'll just click Save on that. And once again, it's putting it in the top of the left column. Now, my pie chart doesn't really need all that real estate in my dashboard, so I'm just going to move it over to be the center column. And now I have a nice display of one account group, which is all of these operating expenses, but it's broken out by department. So I have an intersection here of account group and departments. And again, I have numbers that show up when I hover. I can click the Show Data to show it in a tabular format, and I can drill to the underlying detail. All right, so that's performance cards and charts. We also often want reports in a dashboard. So let's add a report. Again, you can use either financial reports or you can use custom reports if they have been memorized. And so we'll have the choice here of financial report or memorized report. Let me just close this and try that again. Okay, I'm gonna go for a report. And like I said, you could do a financial report, or you could choose a memorized report from the custom report writer. So in this case, I am going to use a financial report. And you can select by report type or report audience if you have used those filters within your report center to group different types of financial reports. Now, I don't have that defined here, so I'm just going to go straight to my component. And the one I want is profit and loss, actual versus budget. And this one, again, you can use the component name as it's defined, or I could change that title and edit it to whatever I want here. I can leave the height to be automatic, or I could define it for a specific number of rows. When I save that one, once again, it's going to go to the top of the left column. And that's actually a pretty good fit for it there. So I'm just going to leave that one as it is. If you're not using Collaborate in your company, I strongly encourage you to do so. But if you are using Collaborate, and that would be indicated by this little voice bubble up here next to the username, if you're using Collaborate, then you can add your collaboration feed to a dashboard, and that is potentially a great help in just productivity, workflow control. I like my Collaborate feed to be a little bit taller than the standard, so I'm going to make this 300, and let's go ahead and show that. Once again, it's going to put it in the left column, and I can see what's going on there with my Collaborate conversations. I don't want it in the header, I want it in the right column. Okay, so I put it in the right column, and as I said, if you're not using this, this is a great way to control conversations within and around your transactions. You can drill back to the original transaction from it, and you can view all of your current conversations right there in the dashboard based on, as those feeds were defined, what I follow, what was specifically directed to me, or the entire company. So what I follow is my preference because it's kind of the a compromise between just seeing what's directed to me and absolutely everything going on in the company. All right, so I've got some reports, some Collaborate feed. Now, of course, one of the objectives here is to not only get those insights, but also to improve our whole workflow so that the dashboard is our work center, right? So let me just add a record component, and I'm going to, in this case, go to record. And the available components under record type are quite a few. Some of these are more helpful for my particular job than others, and I mainly want to see approved journal entries. So this is going to show me what approvals are pending for me. I'm going to limit it to, or I'm going to show 10 rows, up to 10 rows. And this is important. I need to actually tell this definition what I want to show. If I don't define some fields, then there won't be anything to show. So maybe I want to see who submitted it, the journal number, a description, and that's probably good. And let's sort it on the submitter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. You can see I can also filter so that I only see specific groups of journals for approval. I save that one. And I'm going to move this over to below my Collaborate feed, right there. Now, the great thing about this is not only can I see what's waiting for me to approve, but I can just click on that magnifying glass, and in my pop-up, I can go straight to approving it from right here. If I had a long list of journals to approve, I could just go ahead and approve them all by checking the box and then clicking the approve button. Or I can approve them individually or decline them, or I can view them. So if I click on the view button, it will take me straight to the journal that I need to look at. And that could be really helpful in just getting through that month-end process. So as Michael said, you might just include that in your operational role-based dashboard, or you might have a task dedicated month-end close checklist within your dashboards. Okay, so we've covered some of the standard ones here. Another one that I think is pretty cool that is not used as often is the Smart Link dashboard component. So I'm going to just add one of these for a little view of what it can do. Now, there's two different kinds of smart links. You could have click links in which you can show within the dashboard component as many URLs and link names as you want so that you have external links. So we had internal menu items that you can put on a dashboard through the general component. This lets you add external links that you can click to, or you can use fetch. And if you can find a URL of a site that actually provides you with data and will allow you to put it within a iframe, then we can pull it in through the Smart Link fetch. So for instance, I want FX trends. I'm going to make this 450 so that it's nice and tall. And I have a trend report here from xrates.com. And I'm going to just copy that URL and put it into my dashboard component. And I'll save that. Okay, so now I have a FX trend report from an external source displayed right here in my dashboard. And not only is it displayed, but I can interact with it. I can change the settings and it will update immediately and be viewable in my dashboard right there. I can also click on that magnifying glass and it will take me out to the external URL. So that's kind of fun. It doesn't have to be work related. All right, so I think that we've covered a lot of the kinds of dashboard components that can be helpful and useful and even fun in making your dashboard or multiple dashboards sort of the center of your Intacct working experience, helping you not just with visibility and strategy, but also with just the day-to-day tasks. All right, thank you very much for that.
So we thank you for joining us today. We apologize, of course, for any technical difficulties that we may have had along the demonstration there at the end. But we hope that you will be, inspired about the different uses of dashboards. Get creative with them. Think about the things that you can build and have a better understanding of what some of these components are. I urge you to go in and click around if you're a Sage user, Sage Intacct user already. There's a lot of neat components within that general section as well. Things like attachment containers, smart links, quick navigation within the system. We were just highlighting some of the more common ones with the performance cards and the reports and the charts and the graph. Also, feel free to reach out to Tom or myself. Should you have any questions about dashboards or need help creating any dashboards, we'd be more than happy to answer any more questions that you may have. And of course, you can see our contact information here on the screen. So we thank you for joining us today and hope you all have a great day.